Does your idea of a nice spring day involve coming to a park like this with a nice stream running through it and maybe, I don't know, skimming some stones or going for a nice nature walk along that stream, or maybe having a picnic by a lake? Well, if that's the case, then you are ready for this month's EcoQuest challenge called Water Walk, in which we'll be looking at two types of invasive plants that are typically associated with water. So let's take a closer look at what those two plants are and how to ID them, and let's see if you can contribute to our project through iNaturalist. Here's a look at a whole stand of our first EcoQuest challenge species called black or European alder. All around me here, this is an abandoned wetland here that was kind of converted during development in this area. And you can see that it can grow as a multi-stemmed, almost like shrub-like fashion, even though it can get pretty tall. But typically it's going to grow as straight up, as a very skinny tree. One of the hallmark features of black alder are these bumpy lenticels on the trunk and the branches itself. So lenticels are these pores that allow for gas exchange between the tree or plant itself and its outside environment. And you can see that it's studded with all of these white bumps. You can see the scale of that with my thumb here. As I follow this tree up, you can see that they can be pretty tall. So, you know, a lot of these trees around me here are about 30 feet in height. So looking straight up into the sky here, they can get pretty tall. I wanted to also look at this one that's kind of leaning over here. You'll notice that as we follow this, those lenticels continue along the trunk. But another hallmark feature that I want to point out about it is that it is monoecious, meaning that its male and female structures are found on the same plant itself. And these, for black alder, are called catkins. So this is the flowering spike, or the female flowering spike, called catkins. They almost have like a pine cone-like look to them. You can notice that they're about the size of my thumbnail. So that's what the females flowering spikes will look like. But you can also see within this same tree itself, you'll also see the male catkins that are on this plant as well. They're very long and kind of skinny. So again, looking at my hand for a frame of reference here, they're maybe a couple inches long and very, very narrow, right? And all throughout this tree here, you'll see that the male and female catkins are found on these same branches and on the same tree. So you'll also notice that black alder has an alternating branching structure to it. So again, here would be a branch coming off there, then alternating there. So meaning that each of these, little twigs and stuff that are coming off the main stem are coming off alternate. They're not opposite of one another, like coming out at 180 degrees from each other. So these are all features to be on the lookout for that, to make sure that you are looking at black alder. Look for the presence of those catkins and the bumpy lenticels all along its length of its trunk. I wish I could tell you that the bumpy lenticels and the presence of the catkins was enough to get a firm ID, but there's a couple more things to be on the lookout for to know for sure that you are looking at black alder. So even though you're not going to be able to see the leaves at this time of year, these are some images from that same stand that I took a little bit later in the spring of last year. And you'll notice that black alder has a very distinctive notch that's at the end of some of its leaves. This image was from that same grove. You see that little notch there at the end, and in this picture here? Well, a lot of the other lookalikes, a lot of the native alders do not have that. They'll have pointy ends to it. The other thing to be mindful of is that the catkins on the invasive alders tend to be on longer stalks. You see how this coming off the main branch there has a longer stalk, and these are very extended. If you look at a lookalike, like native speckled alder, the leaf tips on that are going to be very pointed versus the previous one, as we saw, that little notch at the end there. Also, the speckled alder, its cones, or its female catkins, are on shorter stalks. They're hugging that branch a little bit closer. So this is one way to tell the invasive alder from some of the native ones, like speckled alder. And I remember at the beginning of this video, I told you that there's a second EcoQuest challenge species for our water walk challenge. And that one is called curly leaf pondweed, which you can see in this image here. So curly leaf pondweed is a submerged aquatic invasive plant. It's native to Europe, Asia, Africa, and Australia, and was actually one of the first earliest invaders to New York State in 1879. One of the reasons why it's become so prevalent in our region is that it's really pollution tolerant and has been very successful in invading systems with either that are highly polluted or have low light conditions. And one of the reasons why it can outcompete a lot of our native aquatic invasive species is due to its early spring growth. It can grow up to 8 to 10 centimeters per day, and it reproduces by fragmentation as well as through turions. You can see a picture of one here. So these are overwintering buds, which basically allow for winter growth. And very, very slowly over the winter, these grow at a very slow rate. So by the time the spring rolls around, it has its burst of growth and can grow at this really quick growth rate and has a jump start on some of our other natives. It can form these very dense mats that you can see here from sort of a bird's eye view that can impede water flow. And to make matters worse, curly leaf pondweed is a big dieback in the summer, and it releases a lot of phosphorus when it has this dieback, which then leads to other types of algal blooms and stripping of oxygen in the water column. So lots of different reasons why it threatens a lot of our natives. The ID for this is actually really simple. So you're out at this lake, you just look in the water. It can grow in lakes, ponds, reservoirs, rivers that are up to 23 feet deep. And really what you're looking for is a plant that's completely submerged. There's no floating leaves on it. And you're just looking for its like a very distinctive lasagna noodle appearance to it, or almost like a bacon or something. Typically, they're reddish green leaves, and they'll alternate along the stem. But it's really that distinctive lasagna-like look to it that's really unlike anything else. And this is what it would look like again from a bird's eye view. That lasagna bacon sort of appearance is even obvious at that point as well, just looking at the surface. In terms of iNaturalist posting instructions, all of the observations you see of European alder or black alder, you can post under what is referred to under iNaturalist as common alder or Alnus glutinosa. That's the main thing. Just make sure you're posting as Alnus glutinosa. You're going to post any observations of curly leaf pondweed under curly leaf pondweed or Potamogeton crispus. If you have any doubt about the IDs, you can post as more general, like under general alders or the Alnus genus, or just under pondweed or Potamogeton, respectively. If you have any questions, of course, email us at invasives@nynjtc.org or visit our Lower Hudson Prism EcoQuest website, which you can see on your screen here. Once again, just want to say thank you for our partners for helping us out, and would love to have you as part of our Water Walk Challenge in the month of April. Good luck.